Hello, everybody, and welcome to Lifesize Live, the live web show produced entirely through the Lifesize platform. I'm your host, Julian Fields, and with me today is Scott Rankin, the global director of our sales engineering team. Scott, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so we've got you on the line. I figured now would be a good time to answer a question that we've got a couple of times.
Right.
People want to know about the setup that we have here at Lifesize Live. So if you could, do your job and tell us about the solution that we've architected here.
So my understanding, I wouldn't have to work during this, but all right. So long as keep the questions easy, make my life easy. Yeah. So just in terms of all the pieces and parts that go into delivering these live webinars.
Exactly.
What's that all about? I
say produced entirely through the Lifesize platform. Let's hear how it goes.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, from the equipment we have in the room, we've got the Phone HD, we've got an Icon 600 as the codec, and of course the Camera 10X, which is capturing our video. We're streaming that out into the Lifesize service, and then leveraging both our cloud-based recording service and our live streaming capability to deliver this live over the webinar. We're using the same technology, at the end of the day, that delivers Netflix to your Apple TV at the end of the day. We've got 54 POPs globally, worldwide, to deliver this, at a low latency, high capacity, on a global footprint to whomever happens to join us today.
Gotcha. I guess the difference between Netflix is they're able to buffer their streams, whereas we're going to do it live.
They get a little more latitude, being video on demand, whereas we're live, and particularly in a video conferencing mode, where you have that two-way dialogue, and it needs to be low latency in real time. But at the end of the day, the delivery mechanism for the stream is the same. We can handle an audience of up to 10,000 people. I'm sure we're bumping up against that limit.
Just about there.
Us,
yeah, we might. Right. We'll be the reason that we push that up.
We may need to turn the knob up a little bit. Yeah. Okay.
Well, thanks for explaining that. I know, as the end user of the solution, I walk in the room, I join the Lifesize Live virtual meeting room, I hit enable stream, and we're good to go. And it's really simple. So thank you for all of your work in making that so easy.
Yeah. I think worth pointing out, you haven't spent the last 8 years of your life as a sales engineer in video conferencing.
It's true.
This is a very easy and approachable technology for yourself.
Absolutely.
Right? I think that's important. That's a key element.
So pretty self-contained little solution that we have here, somewhat different from kind of our topic today, which is a more complicated, complex solution over at Yelp.
Right.
And so you helped bring them from an on-premise solution to the cloud. So maybe if you could tell us a little bit about the starting point, so about their on-premise solution that they were using.
Yeah, sure. So, when I first got engaged with Yelp, it's been a few years now. But, sort of their original state was they had about 60 Lifesize endpoints. Mm-hmm. They had our on-premises bridging solution. And they also had our on-premises, sort of mobile desktop solution. And that, really, rewinding the clock a little bit, that was what looked like a success back then, right? There's a lot of enabled rooms. Yeah. It's a pretty big investment on their part, for sure. They had the bridging capacity, and they had the mobile capacity with about 100 users on mobile and desktops.
Okay. And about 100 users on top of about how many employees did they have?
Well, today, they're right around the 2,500 mark.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 100 of, let's say, 2,500.
Yeah, right. Okay. Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So that's where we were.
That's where we were, yeah.
So about a couple of years ago, you were telling me they've reprioritized, they've rethought about reinvesting in video conferencing, making it a little bit bigger.
Right.
So what happened there?
Well, I think the goal was to sort of, two things, right? One was to they had a couple competing technologies in the conference room, depending on, so there's a couple solutions there. So one goal was to sort of rationalize those into one platform that, solved all their needs. And the other thing was, frankly, to deploy a scalable, redundant, high availability, mission critical solution that could grow to all rooms and all employees.
Gotcha.
Right. And, so it really simplistic level, right? There's sort of two paths you could have gone. You could have gone, on premises. That's certainly achievable with on premises, right? They've already gone there. Or you could go and, start looking at a SaaS type of solution. Okay. And the reason I say that 60 endpoints and a bridge and it sort of looked like success. That was a reasonably big deployment back then from an on-premises perspective. And to get further than that, possible, there's some challenges there. There's a fairly large capital outlay to get the kind of infrastructure you need to enable all rooms and allow them to collaborate. Certainly, if you want to, if your goal is a mission critical application, then you're looking at redundancy, certainly. So now you're doubling the cost, right? Right. And so, you get that capital outlay, well then, you need to manage it, maintain it, keep it running.
Sure.
So, there's a fairly significant management overhead. I mean, we've all seen those, sort of on-premises architecture diagrams. It doesn't really matter what the solution is, but, a lot of servers and a lot of arrows,
Yep.
right? And, I used to build those, right? Know what that's like? Certainly possible. And, frankly, from an engineering and technology perspective, they're kind of interesting, but maybe not the most practical, right, from an end user perspective, both in terms of cost, in terms of managerial overhead. There's, people that grew certainly larger than that, but, you're starting to talk about Fortune 500 at that stage of the game. So there's all that. And I think, the cost was certainly prohibitive, but more the management overhead. I mean, this is a team of four people that are managing this across Yelp globally. So that was just, sort of a non-starter, right? So now, you're sort of, into the cloud space, certainly, where we can do all that. But, obviously we've got the advantages of economies of scale. We can build that redundancy. We can build that global, we have built that redundancy. We have built the global footprint.
More than 2x too, it sounds like.
Yeah, 20x, effectively, yeah. And we have built that global footprint that lines up with, where their office locations are. And then from a capacity perspective, we've got that too. We have 20, points of presence for live video conferencing around the planet. Each one of those has got capacity for, roughly 600 plus ports of high definition bridging. You think for a second what that would cost to build just one of those pops, right? Not all 20 of them, right? Just the first one, right? Absolutely cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
Right. And then, you want to have those geographically co-located with where your offices are. You want that redundancy. It's just not possible for an on-premise. So, what we're able to deliver is just, architecturally from a service perspective, lines up with what their goals were, particularly around the mission critical part. And then, really back to that concept of solution rationalization. It's, one vendor relationship for them to manage, right? We make the systems that live in the conference room. We make the applications that live on the desktop or on the mobile phones. And then we, make and manage the service that ties all those things together.
Yeah. And we've got the support organization answering calls if something were to happen.
That's right.
So it's the full solution.
Yes, all of it.
Gotcha.
Right? Yeah.
So any, we've got two solutions at this point in our history, and we go with the cloud solution. They go with the cloud solution. Any particular reasoning behind that?
Well, I think the main thing is sort of some of the points I just illustrated.
Yeah.
Certainly the one vendor relationship was a big piece. Another piece was, they had some existing endpoints, and there was additional value, at least certainly at the beginning, where we could give them a little runway of, getting more value out of those systems and giving them a little more runway in terms of, transitioning off to the next generation of endpoints.
Okay.
Right. So that was a key piece.
All right. So how about the actual transition, being involved in that? Was there men on the ground? How did we go about implementing that?
Yeah, it's interesting to contrast, my life sort of pre-cloud service, post-cloud service, right? There's certainly, back in the on-prem days, there's certainly boots on the ground,
Right.
Sort of required in that sort of scenario. Today, look, at scale, 25 users, they're at 150 video-enabled rooms. Scale, and there is some complexity around scale and some management that's required. We have, beyond the support team you mentioned, we've also got a success team that specializes in that whole adoption process and getting a customer, regardless of their size, frankly, from a starting point to wheels up and taking off. Certainly there was work to do. I think, contrasting that versus on-premises, it was certainly smoother and a little less heavy lifting involved, but still work to do. It's interesting. You look at sort of their, their weekly sort of or monthly sort of call volume, and sort of at day zero, and we'd been doing a trial for a couple months, so they had a little bit of a running start, but at day zero they were about 1,500 calls on a monthly basis, and then there's this sort of quick ramp up to about 5,000 on a weekly basis.
Okay.
Now they're up to 10,000.
All right.
So 10,000 monthly. 10,000 monthly calls, about 300,000 minutes on a monthly basis. So it's interesting to see that curve. A lot of that was certainly the success organization helping them with that adoption path for that first initial ramp, and then watching it sort of build out over time has been satisfying. I think it's been a lot of fun. I mean, it talked a little bit about their initial state, not 100 users, and off the top of my head, I don't know how many minutes that was, but
right.
It wasn't 300,000 a month. I can tell you that. It was probably, I don't know, it'd be measured in decimal points, certainly. But I think it's so having myself been here 8 years, right? First 4 sort of on-premises sort of world, the last 4 being the SaaS sort of world. It's just amazing to me to see customers achieve that kind of success and that kind of volume. Because, I mean, it for various reasons just impossible in an on-premises world, right? Just from a cost perspective, management, all that sort of thing. So that is just fundamentally fantastic and fun. For me as a sales engineer, I think really what you end up with is that now at that kind of volume, this is really Lifesize produces products and services that help that company run. It's sort of how employees work on a day-to-day basis, right? As important as the phone system was or the email system. It's a video culture, and it's fantastic to see that. But I think one thing to point out is those are big numbers. That's high adoption, right? But back to that concept of having 20 points of presence globally, you can get on this bus wherever you like. I mean, the point is we've got the capacity to scale with you.
Right.
If you want to get up to 300,000 minutes on a monthly basis, that's fine. We can handle that. If your organization is smaller, that's fine too. But we like to be in every room, on every desktop, and the more people you have in a collaboration solution, regardless of what its variety, the more value you're going to get out of it, and we've got the capacity to help you with it.
And your team specifically. I think that's kind of the moral of the story. Whether you're looking at this little solution that I've got, which is 1 endpoint and a cloud service, or Yelp, who has 300 endpoints and 300,000 minutes every month. Right. We can do it all from Lifesize, and you can help engineer it all.
Right. Yeah. Yes, that's right. Absolutely. I mean, the one thing I just sort of again contrasted is talking about the ability to scale. I mentioned we have 20 POPs. I mean, those are global, right? So wherever you happen to be located, we've got presence to accommodate you.
Yeah.
We handle over 500 million minutes of call traffic on an annual basis, right? So we've got the capacity, right, to deal with that, and growing. I mean, the 500 million number is 2 months old now, and certainly stale. It's above that now.
Exponentially growing higher.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our time today. So I'll thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Really interesting. I think we're going to try to turn this into a Tech Tuesday sort of thing. So we'll get some more technology perspectives on our Tuesdays, and then maybe have more of a business Wednesday or Thursday where we can talk more about some of the business problems that video conferencing helps solve. But again, thank you so much for joining us.
Cool.
For everyone out there, we'll see you guys on Thursday at 11 o'clock. Anyway, thanks for stopping by.